everybody. Welcome to Freedom Friday. So, this is part 4 in our 5-part series on the power of our emotions and imagination and how they directly are connected with our organ function. And how, when we tap into our emotions and imagination, not only it lets us with all of life, but also actually helps us with healing. So, today's focus is the metal element. As you can see, I'm dressing the part, fully adorned in my sparkle. And I had a lot of beautiful memories pop up today that were representative of what we're talking about. So, when we think about the element of metal, it is undeniable, right? It just shines through. Metal is all about value and worth. So, when we think of that as we embodiment, it's about self worth, how we value ourselves. So, for myself, this has been quite a journey. When I first started all of this back in 2009, the metal element scared me. I couldn't feel a connection with it. People who really embodied it very strongly, I felt intimidated by. And what I came to realize is, because that was part of my own healing journey, is awakening to my connection with the metal element, especially around this concept of really valuing myself, about my self worth. So when in terms of how we value ourselves and our self-worth, some of the tricks and traps that we can get into is feeling like our worth is dependent on something that's outside of ourselves. That is, oh, hello, beautiful woman. I've got metal in me, literally and figurative. Okay, I love that, Alexa. Beautiful. So this idea that our value and worth is outside of us, that it's dependent on something. It's dependent upon our accomplishments. It's dependent upon how other people are seeing and responding to us. And that's just simply not true. So the stuckness that we can get into within our own metal element is if we start to believe that our worth is dependent on something outside of us, we can get contracted in a way. So metal can become contracted and become protective. And you see the movement I'm doing. Metal is our lung energy. We talked a lot about this in our second session. It was about relationships and connections. And we talked about the relationship between our lungs and our heart. So our lung, which is the metal element, is right out there, nestling the heart on the inside. So when the metal element isn't fully open and expansive and flowing, and it gets contracted, then it can actually block the flow of that heart chi, that connection to spirit. So our heart is really dependent on all of our other organ systems to express that spirit. Because remember, the heart is the channel of spirit. And each of the organs express it in a different way. So when we began this journey and we were talking about, what we talked, our very first session was about heart. And then we were talking about liver and how that's the action and the creative expression. And then we dove into, the element of water and deepening into our connection within. The metal element, it really is about how we shine that spirit out into the world. So literally, it is like how we're sparkling ourselves. So you'll notice, like as I'm speaking, and I'm, oh, yay, we got a metal dragon in the house. Beautiful. As I'm speaking, I'm opening my chest. Now, back in the day, for any of my chi brothers and sisters out there who may remember, when I was very disconnected from my metal element, this was my contracted posture. Protective, right? That energy just felt so weak and scared to show itself. So as I've opened up, my whole posture has changed, that opening that happens, because that's literally connected to our chi and our essence and our energy. So lung and large intestine are the organ systems that are responsible. They're connected with the essence of metal. So rigidity, sadness, control, refine, shine, and let it go. So again, I really want to emphasize when I talk about these things, and I have this chart that shows it on both, opposite sides of the yin yang. I'm not trying to tell you that one side is good and one side is bad. They're all part of the greater whole. So having that experience of contraction when you're conscious and aware helps you to get to a higher level of opening and expansion. So heretofore on my journey, I created a lot of contraction to create expansion, and I'm here to say that there's another way that we're all opening to, that we can open through this playful way of tapping into that flow. So knowing that these organs, right? Just thinking of the organ function, like why are these the organs that are associated with our metal element? And that concept of our value and shining our spirit and our self-worth into the world. If we're going to be shining ourselves into the world, we got to clean up our, we got to get it cleaned up. So truly, truly, when we think, it's very clear at the end of the line that the large intestine is doing this high level of refinement. We've gone through the process of digestion, and it's this final sorting. What am I going to keep? And what do I want to let go of? What serves me in shining my purpose into this world? And what is keeping me stuck and blocked and contracted and constipated, literally? Like I can't shine through because there's so much stuck in there. So the colon, energetically, emotionally, and spiritually, is helping us with that process. So that's one end. And at the other end, we have our lungs, right? So the lung is doing a different kind of filtering. Like we're taking in the essence and energy of the air that we take in, and we're filtering it, and it's helping us to be able to let go of what we no longer need. So the thing about both of these processes is every breath the same. Is every bowel movement the same? No matter what you may read, like there's some ideal structure and shape to a bowel movement, every dang one's going to be different because these organ systems are so sensitive, so conductive, so connected. When we think of that metal, literally the connectivity of relationship. So metal is very responsive to all the other organ systems, very, the relationship and the connection. So when we think of this idea of like high level refinement, another way that I like to think of the way that essence sits in us is the idea that the lung is a regal presence within us, very much like royalty, but not from a place of arrogance, but from this place of truth. Like I know, that was one of the things that was very interesting watching The Crown. I'll turn off Elsa's sparkle here. Is that, their presence and their power wasn't about, traditional governmental structure. It was supposed to be coming from a higher level. Like this is your divine purpose to hold this role. And anyone who watched The Crown from the beginning, like the queen was like, I don't want it. I don't want it. And tried to give it to her sister at a very young age. And her sister's like, yeah, I want it. I want it. And it wasn't her purpose. It wasn't her role. But when she truly was able to step into that power, there was a whole shift that happened in her connection. And it is like about that relationship, about that connection, about that alignment. So part of the reason why I speak on that is, it helps us to connect into the feeling of what that embodies. It's not about control. It really, really is like a strong, healthy metal element is about being so sensitive and connected to all that is, that you're able to respond moment to moment to moment, whether that's the shifts that happen in our breath, in our digestive system, or in how you're responding to the world. But responding from this place of fully being in alignment with the divine truth of how friggin' amazingly beautiful and awesome you are, and nothing can take that away. So another way that I touched into this yesterday was this concept of, the stars. Because truly the metal element, as it exists here on this planet, it came from other places. And within our bodies, the metal element that's within our red blood cells, or if we've had metal in our bodies from surgical procedures, because we got to, when that happens, that happens. There's a reason why you're more metal than you may have a little extra metal in you. You can connect to that in a good way, right? That energy, that essence of all that is sparkling within you. So I included a picture, if you saw it, of my daughter. Children just again and again and again, we're returning to, sorry, I'm having some little action things come up. This idea that what we're tapping into with imagination and play, we all used to know how to do this, right? Who out there, when they were a kid, would, they would play all different kinds of roles that would involve, having magical powers, right? And it was so real and it was so true to you. And when you see that picture of my 5-year-old, it's like you can just see that sparkle shining through her. And there's like, she knows how amazingly awesome she is. And she's going to shine her full self into the world. And she's not going to contract that down because she's like, that's just who I am. That is my purpose, to shine this light into the world. So what if we could play with that? I mean, again, this is not one of the things that we get stuck on, and I think this was part of my issue too, was feeling like that's arrogance. It's not when you're coming from that open-hearted place. It's about, in fact, it's more contractive and an issue if you're trying to close off and block that light because you feel like, oh, I don't, I shouldn't shine that light into the world. You are here to shine your light into the world. So how can you play with that in different ways? Whether it's allowing yourself to put on a little more sparkle than you're used to, or literally playing like, yes, okay, Melanie, believing in magic and wonder and the beauty of the world. Yes, right? I mean, there was a point where all of us undeniably, we all played princess. We all did in some way, or fairy, or something like that. And we felt it fully. That feeling of being able to have that kind of connection and impact, right? That you can hold that regal state. So what if you played queen for a day or fairy princess for a day and just played with it, I mean, as over the top or as quiet and subtle as you want to be within your own heart, and just allowed yourself to play with allowing that sparkle to come through. Because if this is something, that's like you've struggled with that connection with metal, with your self-worth, it can feel really scary in the beginning. So start, on your own, even if it's just you looking at yourself in a mirror and just appreciating that beauty of putting yourself up, all pretty and blingy, and just staring into your own eyes and making a connection, because it really is about your connection with you. And I encourage you all, if this really resonates with you today, go back and listen to the second Freedom Friday, because that's really what we talk about, is that relationship and connection of you with you. And in that session, we talk about the lung and we talk about the heart and relationship, because the heart offers up that feeling of being at peace, being in a place where it's like, we can accept that biggest picture. We can accept that we have the experiences, all of these experiences, and we don't have to get stuck in them when we hold it in that heart space. And it allows us, when we use the play, which our heart loves us to be joyful and in play, it's like we can play with these sticky, stuck places, and it doesn't have to be so scary. And when you play with it on your own, then when you have real world experiences, it's like you can tune back into that feeling, that embodiment of that feeling. So you really want to feel it. So this isn't a superficial level of play. I mean, you really want to feel it everywhere. Make a connection with that feeling of like, here I am, shining through my beautiful divine light into the world, right? Play with it. So start with yourself. And then even like, I had mentioned in another comment, I know there's been a lot of posting on Wellness Slice Within, if you can keep up with it all, the smile. When we really are smiling from heart, it's like our spirit is just sparkling through. So, playing with connecting with your own self, gazing into the mirror, allowing yourself to smile from that heart space, then you can start practicing that on other people and feeling how that feels within you. And the idea being that when we're practicing beyond the practice, moment to moment to moment, we're staying in that heart flow space. And that helps to open up any tightness that we might have in our lung because of that very sensitive, connected relationship between our lungs and our heart. So let's see what else we got in here. We all have those powers. Yes, let's all shine our bright lights, sister. That's right. Let us shine our bright lights, because it isn't like one of us is trying to take the stage and claim all the power. It's the opposite. I want to see if I can get this to show. while back, I had the idea that like I wanted my practice to be like, a disco ball. Is that if I could inspire the sparkle of even just one or two people and they go out and inspire the sparkle of other people, what does that look like when we all start shining our lights into the world? How does that transform even the deepest and darkest shadows? That's really where the most, if you are one of those folks who's really wanting to create great change in the world and in your community, where does that start from? That starts from in here, right? It starts from in here. We could go even closer to home if it's just like I'd love to create shifts in my relationships and my connections, whether that's at work or in your home life. Where does that begin? Does that begin by changing from the outside, trying to control these situations that are around you? So setting like high expectations for what that needs to look like to meet the demands of the queen. No, it's the opposite of that. So one of my friends yesterday sent me this quote, and it's that all expectations are simply an opening to resentments, frustrations, and disappointments, right? So if we can, instead of having all these expectations that are outside of what we want to create, if we continually focus on our own sparkle, on shifting things from the inside, allowing our spirit to come through, playing with it in every way possible, we are going to be like transforming the world with all of our magical lights. So, all right. Oh, she loves my disco ball. So this is I think it's Elisa or Elisa. Yep, I'm one of those creating huge cultural transformation beginning from within. My body, my breath, listening to you is really connecting me with my embodied vision, vegan, holistic, optometrist self. Okay, it's Dr. Elisa Beth Horansky Beck. Yes, yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes, and I hope it inspires all of you to just let the full you to shine through. So, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure and a gift to share with you today. And we will wrap next Friday by tapping into emotions and imagination and how we connect into our nurturing earth energy. It's a big one for all of us. So have a beautiful Friday. And for some of you, I'll see you in just a few in 5 days, 5 ways to awaken your immune health. Mwah!